today. And a couple days before this, I saw a title by the Daily Stoic, a fairly large YouTuber, been on Joe Rogan, and probably some other places that I haven't seen him, that said how to read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. Quote, the greatest book ever written. End quote. Let it sink in. Let it sink in. Okay, are you as incredibly infuriated as I was after seeing that? If not, you're unaware of books, or what the word greatest means, or was, or written. Yeah, that's kind of the only possibility here, because to think and believe a statement such as Marcus Aurelius' Meditations are the greatest book ever written is the kind of lunacy 99% of schizophrenics don't even attempt to approach. It really beggars belief how someone could write that and actually stand by it. Okay? Now, let's try to dive into, let's be generous and say, how could he possibly have meant this in a sane way? The first thing you might ask yourself is, okay, well, maybe he didn't mean greatest best. Maybe he meant greatest as in most influential. Okay, that's reasonable. I generally always, when I'm talking about like bands, like the greatest band of all time is probably the Beatles. Probably, arguably the Rolling Stones, but you're fighting an uphill battle with the Rolling Stones. It's probably the Beatles. The best band of all time is Rush. Yeah. Now, the reason I say that and the reason I separate best from greatest is because greatest to a lot of people means like most influential, most popular, as in like a great man. A great man, the greatest man, is not necessarily the best man. In fact, it's almost certainly not. But we kind of use those terms interchangeably. Best, in this instance, means every aspect of a thing that could be good is factored into it. And this is the best example, the thing that most exemplifies goodness in every single one of those aspects. And it is all in one package. That is why Rush is the best band of all time, because in every criteria that you can list out about what makes a band good, Rush is always in the absolute top upper echelon. And probably in some, musicianship, probably is like the number one. Greatness, the greatest car ever built, you could make a lot of things. You'd probably say like the Model T. But with a great car, with a good car, you could have an enormous amount of different things that could be good about it. You could have the styling's really good, the handling's really good, the top speed, the price point, XYZ, you name it. And every single one of those factors is a legitimate, relevant point. That someone could say, you know what, this car sucks in every possible category, but you know what, it looks so freaking good, I love it. That's a respectable position to have. But you would never say, this is the best car ever, because it's the best looking car ever. No one would accept that. It's completely insane. In this same sense, maybe he meant greatest as in most influential. I don't think he did. I think what he meant to say is this is the best. This is the best book ever written. This is the most book ever written. And, this is the top number one book. In every possible way that makes a book good, this one is number one. It hurts me to even like utter these words because it's so, I'm really like grinding my teeth right now. So, the most influential book of all time. I considered this for a second, and then I immediately, as I even thought about it, I was like, okay, what about the Bible? What about any religious text? Any popular religious text? Name any one. it's more influential by an order of magnitude, if not many orders of magnitude. So, okay, so it's not the most influential book of all time. So it can't be the greatest in that way. Okay, what about the greatest book? Like, okay, like it's written by the most important person? I guess maybe alive at that time, at that, in that exact moment where he's writing this and he's the Emperor of Rome at that point in history. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to research it. Let's say he's the most powerful person in the world. Okay. Barack Obama wrote a book. George Bush wrote a book. And they were arguably, if not absolutely, the most powerful person in the world at the time. Were their books the greatest books ever written then? No, obviously not. Are those books going to be read in 10 years by anyone other than like historians or, political science majors being made to do so by their teachers? No, of course not. Now, maybe those books have some, historical significance. They have some bearing on events. They'll show the state of mind of this person that had an outsized influence on world events and therefore history and historical significance and so on and so forth. Yeah, sure, okay. No one's going to say, what is it, Conversations with My Father with Barack Obama? Like, that's the best, greatest book ever written, even the most influential book ever written, or the most anything book ever written. It's not. So, obviously, it fails. Marcus Aurelius' books fail on that manner as well. So the only thing he can possibly mean is this is my favorite book of all time. Even there, I'm like, really? Okay, even with that statement, you have to say, no, it's not actually your favorite book of all time. It's probably maybe the book that had the most influence on you, on your life, and in that sense, nothing but kudos. Good for you. Great. I always love when someone finds anything virtuous and practical and good to build their life around. It's a wonderful, fantastic thing. But even there, I'm a little bit twisted because I don't like it when you then go ahead and preach that to someone else, because that's probably not going to be their reaction to this, okay? Man, I've got some people in my life who really love the Bible. Every answer to every question in their life is answered by the Bible. And hey, I've got nothing but love and respect for that because they're leading probably a better life than me. Let's be totally honest here. But I do not find that same significance in there. And it would gall me beyond all measure to have them preach that, hey, this thing that worked for me, you should do it because it's definitely going to work for you. No, that's not how you do that. That's ridiculous, and it's infuriating. People hate it. I hate it. So this guy's trying to shove Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, which I have read, didn't care for it particularly much, down my throat because it worked out well for him. That is ridiculous, okay? And don't tell me you're not trying to shove it down my throat when you're calling it the greatest book ever written. That's a pure, obvious call to action. Hey man, this is the greatest book ever written. You haven't read the greatest book ever written? Can you even read? Are you illiterate? Are you some uneducated pleb? You must be absolutely incompetent. Can't even speak. Yes. That's what you want us to believe when you write this, the greatest book ever written. It's not. It's not the greatest book ever written. Now, what is the greatest book ever written? The greatest book ever written, I mean, again, greatness, influential, you'd have to say the Bible. You just would. Yeah, in terms of like the outside influenced one, every aspect of everything, yeah, it realistically is. The best book ever written, I would not put the Bible up there. I'd probably put something slightly more modern because, literary techniques have evolved and so on and so forth. But then again, a lot of that's going to come down to personal taste. So I really couldn't even say. I don't think I would have a legitimate contender that I would be confident in arguing for. My favorite book of all time, The Kingkiller Chronicles, which is as of yet unfinished. So I can really only say the first two books. But yeah, it's a perfect book. God, it's so good. For every reason that makes a book good, it is good. And it is I would say it's a perfect book, to be perfectly honest. That all being said, it's not doing the same things that the Meditations or any of these sort of large philosophical, here's how to live your life, although even the Meditations isn't even really that, because it's not meant for that. It's a journal. And you know what? That's probably a good note to end on. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is probably the greatest diary ever published. I'll give it that. And no more. So, thanks for listening. I applaud you for it. And like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, I probably should have said that earlier because you're probably not listening anymore. But if you are, thanks again. And I'll see you later. Goodbye.